We're so glad that you are joining us here at the Orchard. If this is your first time, we'd love to welcome you. If this is not your first time, we're welcoming you anyway. And I want to start with a story from Sunday school. There was a teacher who was teaching a bunch of 5-year-olds, and you know, that's just a job, right? I mean, that is quite the job. And he was there and he said, he thought he would ask a question, and he said, children, I want you to think before you answer, and don't just answer Jesus in church. How do you get to heaven? And the kids looked deep in thought, and no one would answer. And so he prompted them. He said, what if I sold my house? What if I sold up my car and all my toys and all my stuff, and I took all the money and I gave it to those in need and gave it to the church? Would I go to heaven then? And the kids kind of all at once said, no! And he's like, all right. And then he said, okay, what if I cleaned my room every day? What if I did what was wrong? What if I cleaned the church? What if I mowed people's lawns? What if I kept everything neat and tidy, just like us? Would I go to heaven? No, they all answered. He said, okay, what about if I was kind to all the animals, puppies and kittens and people? What if I obeyed my mommy and daddy all the time? Would I go to heaven then? And they thought about it. Then they all answered, no. And he was like, wow, man, I have been doing a good job here. These children are really grasping the meat of the gospel of Jesus. Like, they're getting this. They're theologically more sophisticated than I gave them credit for. He said, okay, children, then how? How do you get to heaven? And no one would answer. And finally, one 5-year-old said, well, you gotta die. Yep, you gotta die. You know, how do you get to heaven? How do you get to heaven? That's a question. It should be an important question, right? I mean, that's the question. In Luke chapter 10, Jesus is teaching, and he's going to teach something very famous. This is the summer where we're talking about his stories and parables and teaching straight from his lips. And he's going to tell a parable of a good Samaritan. You may be familiar with the story or just the term, but let's see what Jesus has to say about this. Verse 25, one day an expert in the religious law, an expert in the Bible, stood up. There was a lot of people around listening to Jesus, and he stood up and he tested Jesus by asking him a question. Teacher, what should I do to inherit eternal life? Do you see what he's asking? How do I get to heaven? How do I get saved? This is like the question we should know, right? And it comes from someone who is a, quote, expert in the religious law, a Bible expert. They called the Old Testament the Torah. They had the Tanakh. And this man, to be considered a priest, a Pharisee, an expert, he as a child would have to memorize the entire Old Testament. The entire thing. And not like knowing the numbers and chapters and verses. They didn't have that. Just memorizing the entirety of it. And if you started a verse, he could finish it. He knew this book. He was an expert. Now, it's important for us to know. He's not asking Jesus because he really wants to know Jesus' thoughts on the matter. He's looking to test him. He's looking to find a way to trap Jesus. And no matter what Jesus says, he has a rebuttal and a way to pull Jesus into this theological trap to discredit him and his ministry. Because this Jesus guy is gathering crowds of people who should be at the temple doing the right thing. And he's talking about this God who loves everybody, even people far from him. He's stealing our people. So he has a trap set. They thought this through, and they asked this of Jesus. What must I do to inherit eternal life? Verse 26, Jesus replied, what does Moses say? How do you read it? Jesus is saying, what does it say in the Old Testament? The book that you have memorized. He says, you know so much. Let me hear what you think. Let me see how you would respond. And this Bible expert, he's like, I am more than happy to do that. This is my area of expertise. And in verse 27, he says, you must love the Lord with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Now, his answer is a quote of 2 verses from the Old Testament that together make up something called the Shema, which is a prayer that they would pray every morning and every night. Jesus would pray this prayer. And if you've heard or been around the Orchard at all, this might sound familiar because you should love the Lord your God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love others as yourself is love God, love people. Jesus said those verses, the entire Bible hangs on them. They sum the whole thing up. What did this expert do? He got it right. He nailed it. In fact, he could wear one of our t-shirts. He would be a great Orchard person, right? He would fit right in here. Love God, love people. And Jesus applauds him. Verse 28, you have answered correctly. Go do this and you'll live. Conversation over. Go do this and you'll live. You're right. Oh, Jesus, one thing. The religious expert is not quite done because he has an agenda. He's not here for theology lessons. He's here to discredit and trap Jesus. And so he says, but the Bible expert wanted to justify his actions. He wanted to justify his life, the way he lived. So he asked, who's my neighbor, Jesus? Justify means you want to show yourself righteous. Right, correct. He wanted to prove that not only was his answer correct up here, but that his heart and his life, the thing he built his world upon was right. That the religious Pharisees and priests, their way of living and who they were was correct, and that Jesus was wrong. He wants Jesus to admit here publicly in front of all the people that he, a priest, a Pharisee, a religious expert, an expert in the biblical law, with all his head knowledge, does qualify for eternal life and has it right. He's looking to score a victory for himself and against Jesus' teachings about this God who's so liberal in his love of people, people who surely are not going to heaven. So by this time, these Pharisees and priests, the religious elite, and everyone listening, they have seen Jesus feed 10,000 people. They've seen him do miracle after miracle. They've heard his words that just cut to their heart and called them to something brand new. They've seen him heal the unclean. They've seen him compassionately move in and treat the religiously homeless as friends. He's gone to the culturally marginalized. He's gone to the spiritually unclean and unholy. And Jesus even has the nerve to eat and hang out with sinners. He shares a table with the dregs of society. And these religious elite, they know that while Jesus and them agree, love God and love people, that how they define people is vastly far apart. What kind of people do I have to love? That's his question. Love your neighbor. Who's my neighbor? That would mean there's people that aren't my neighbor. Now, the neighbor, it doesn't mean the person right next to you. It means people. People you come into contact with. Those people. All people. What kind of people do I have to love? And with that, the trap is set. Jesus has fallen right into their hands, right into their trap. However Jesus answers this, they will have him revealed to the crowd that follow him that he is no prophet. And they can finally get back to following the priests and the Pharisees. They're waiting for Jesus' answer. But Jesus, confusingly, answers in a way they weren't prepared for. Instead of answering them, he starts with a story. A story that holds deep truth for us today, that may be more true today than we would ever want to admit in our own heart and in our society, for sure. Who's my neighbor? That's the question Jesus is addressing. Verse 30, Jesus replied with a story. A man was traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho. He mentions a place that those present would know exactly what it is. They would know this place, this road, this narrow road with a cliff on one side and kind of goes down on the other. They would know it's not a wide path. They've been there. The Jericho road. Not all that much room, not a double lane. They're walking on these paths. It says, this man was traveling when he was attacked by robbers, Jesus says. The robbers stripped him of his clothes. They beat him up and they left him half dead beside the road. So we have this beaten and bloody man, robbed and stripped and discarded on the side of this narrow road. Not off the road, like there's not a ton of room, but kind of right on the edge, on the side of it. He's bloodied. He's broken. He's moaning in half consciousness, pleading if anyone would come by. And Jesus, after telling us this, as everyone listened, he introduces somebody new into the story. Would this person show up on the scene of the crime and help, rescue? 31, a priest came along. But when he saw the man lying there, he passed by on the other side. A priest who's traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho is likely leaving and finishing his temple duties and going back home. This priest has just got done with church and is going home for the day. Like he just got the sermon. He gave the sermon. If anybody's going to get something, it's him, right? This priest is the symbol of their religion. He's a holy man, the most esteemed, the most powerful, the most educated, the wealthiest person in their society. So this question is, who's my neighbor? And the priest shows up. Obviously, the beaten person who's bloody and half conscious is not a neighbor. Love God, love people. But what kind of people, Jesus? Obviously not that kind. Jesus continues in verse 32. Next, a Levite came along. He walked over and looked at him lying there. He at least approaches and looks at him, but then he also passed by on the other side. Now, a Levite is somebody who comes from the right background, the right lineage, a tribe of Levi, a sacred role in religious duties. An expert who started this debate, the person who started the debate with Jesus, was likely a Levite himself, who was well-versed in God's law. So Jesus has two people walk by this beaten person. The first is a priest, an expert in the scripture, who chose God. The second, a Levite, who was born into the tribe that follows God, the right pedigree. Both of these men are powerful, and both of them walk past the beaten person. For the priests and the religious elite listening, they associated with the Levite and the priest in the story. They're probably a bit confused. Like, what is Jesus getting at? Where's he going with this? We were so confident a second ago, and now we have no idea what he's about to do. Everyone else is just silently listening, wondering where Jesus, the teacher, how he's going to answer these powerful people in their society. But the next sentence that Jesus says, it's going to drop many of the jaws of people listening. And those whose jaws are not dropped in shock are going to be clenched in anger. Because what Jesus does next in their culture, he goes too far. He just crosses the line. Jesus says, verse 33, then a despised Samaritan came along. When he saw the beaten man, he felt compassion for him. Now, who are the Samaritans in this culture? At the time Jesus is preaching this parable, there is no other race or type of people more despised than the Samaritans. These two groups had mutual hostility toward each other, and by the time Jesus is saying this, there's been 800 years of hatred that is built up. Generational hatred and separation, polarizing by that name, Samaritan. They were considered half-breeds and worse, religiously pagan, as they took the truth and twisted it to their own ways. And in fact, when Jesus was preaching in John 8, John records that the Pharisees, the religious elite, were so upset with Jesus, they wanted to insult him. Do you know what they called him? Samaritan. It was an insult. One of the worst you could call somebody. Derogatory term in their society. A group looked down on because of where they were born, how they were born, and how they chose to live. Now, before we blame them too much, or in any way look at that and go, oh, how could they? Let's turn this as a mirror for just a second. As humanity, this is what we often do. In our world, people are judged where they're born, how they're born, their lifestyle. Did you know on this planet, there is somebody who despises you because of who you are and where you were born? It's just true. In our nation, there is a polarized, I don't have to describe this too much to you, you know it. If you turn on a TV channel, they will be telling you about the Samaritans on the other channel. You go to that channel, they're villainizing the Samaritans on this channel. Everybody there is generational polarized hatred. Politically, they're Samaritans. Morally, society of Samaritans. We have to admit, if we're really honest, that there are people, we call them those people, and them, that we just, perhaps there's someone politically that you can't think of them, her or him, without going, ugh. Any person that I have you think of that just gets you, That's a small taste of what they would have felt and the animosity they would have had from 800 years of hatred. It was rooted deeply. I'm not a good enough preacher to fully let you know and understand how much this story and Jesus putting a Samaritan in there would have just offended them. Once again, in the midst of a parable, Jesus is unveiling something that reveals God's heart, and it uncovers cultural biases and beliefs. So what is he saying here? He doesn't just make the Samaritan in the story. Jesus has the nerve to make the Samaritan the hero. This is going terribly for the people listening. Jesus says in verse 34, going over to the beaten man, the Samaritan soothed his wounds. He gave him olive oil and wine and bandaged them up. He put the man on his own donkey. He took him to an inn where he took care of him. The next day he handed the innkeeper 2 silver coins, covering everything. Take care of this man, he said. And if his bill runs any higher, I'll pay you back next time I'm here. I'll be back, he says. In a shocking twist, this Samaritan, the person no one would even want to be around, talk about, or be near, they would never help them if they were beaten on the side of the road. In fact, they would go, it's about time they got their comeuppance or whatever. The Samaritan is the one who sacrificially rescues the person in the story and says, I'm going to cover any debt there is, and I'll be back to make it right. The least likely person in the entire culture comes to the rescue, is the hero. He does what the celebrated and the powerful and the religious would not do. And with that, Jesus turns to the slack-jawed law who started this and the silent crowd watching, and he asks a simple question. Just one little question. And remember, the priest wanted to spring a trap on Jesus, but he gets it sprung on him in return. Jesus said, now, which of the 3 would you say was a neighbor to the man who was attacked by the bandits? Now, you know the religious elite one. Who does he want to say? Well, the priest is always right. That's me, the Levite. But he can't. He's trapped. This is masterful. He asked, who's my neighbor? What kind of person do I have to love to be saved? And Jesus didn't answer the question. And this is huge. Because we say love God, love people. Yet, by our behavior, by our gossip, by the way we talk and murder other people with our words, we are saying, yeah, but which people? Love God and love people. I love the people that I love. I love the people I like. I love the people that look like me, agree with me, believe like me, and vote like me. That's who I love. You see, if we ask which people, or if our life behaves that, we've missed the heart of God. We've missed it. We're looking for loopholes to justify ourselves religiously. And what did it say this expert in the law was wanting to do? It said he was wanting to justify his beliefs by asking this. Yes, Jesus, but what about those people over there? And you know, Jesus, how they sin. We don't even need to talk about it. Like Jesus, what about them? The priest had all the head knowledge in the world about God, about love God and love people. He had the Bible memorized. He had a nice, tidy church answer. And he's probably very well respected in his church community. But he wanted to know which people. All people? Let's put some asterisks in there. Let's put some caveats in there. He wanted qualifications. You see, like a lot of religiosity or legalism, he had a hierarchy of sin. He had a star chart or a ranking system. You get drunk on the weekends, but this guy's hurting people, and then this, and then this, and this. Like he had this ranking system for everyone, and that made him feel really good about himself because he can compare himself to somebody on that list. But where on the list do you have to stop loving people? Where on the list are they just unacceptable and they've sinned too much? What kind of people should we love, Jesus? Who's my neighbor, Jesus? Because if someone's my neighbor, that means there might be some people who aren't my neighbor. I don't have to love them. I don't have to cross the street and help them. That must mean there are people with certain lifestyles. If what the religious man is saying is true, there's some people who live a certain way and have certain sins and pasts that Jesus would look at us and go, not them, of course. Not them. See, that's what the religious grading system looks for and looks like. The expert in the Bible, he gets confronted by something that I need and we need to digest in our own spiritual life. Are there select groups of people? Let's just be really, really honest. Don't raise your hands. Please. Are there select groups of people who, based on where they're born, how they live, their lifestyle, their past, their present sin, that you would not lovingly help out? In fact, you choose to stay away from them. I don't want anything to do with them. I don't respect their belief, how they act, how they sin, or how they vote in any way, and I'm not going to help them. Are there hand-picked categories of certain sins that really are up there, that your heart says, you know what? That's where I draw the line when it comes to help or love. Who's my neighbor? Who's my neighbor? The religious man asked. Are there people who claim certain connections or orientations or creed, gender, or the way they vote that you wouldn't sully your efforts in life with? Who should I love? Surely not them. Is there a political party you can't think of without anger? Love people? Which people? Not them. Is there a certain group that we shun? Perhaps I'll see them there and I'll look at them like the Levite, but I'm going to move far. So I'm not going out of my way to help them. In this parable, Jesus challenges us. He really does. It's uncomfortable. And this is why they couldn't stand him. He seems so liberal in his love. I mean, look at this. We should ask ourselves. People ask me a lot. My inbox is full of this. I've had conversations out in the lobby, and they'll say, like, what do you do about those people? And they'll put in the sin issue. What's amazing to me is no one ever puts in their own sin issue. In fact, they go, hey, have you ever thought about preaching about this sin? And I go, why, is that yours? No. No one ever wants me to preach about their sin. It's always something they do not struggle with. What do you do about those people? Like, if they walked into the orchard, what would you do? I have this question. And oftentimes, there is a disappointment when I tell them one thing that we believe. There's room for everyone here. There's room for you here. There's room for me and my sin here. There's room for everyone. Love God and love people. All people. Or when Jesus, as he spoke, and we read over and over, he had notorious sinners, lifestyle degenerates, spiritual fakers, and judgmental religious people. All of them were around listening. All of them heard the same message. All of them were welcomed. But that question about those people who are far from God, who act like they're far from God, how do we allow them to come near? How can we do that? I believe this parable speaks to it as a church and as individuals. That these doors should be open to all, to the sinners and the saints and the Samaritans and the religious experts and the people of any background or lifestyle or political spectrum or past or present. Or as Jesus' own brother James actually said in Acts 15:19, he said, it's my judgment that we should not make it difficult for those who are far from God and who are trying to turn toward him. We should not make it difficult for them to come near. Why would we make it difficult? It'd be like if the disciples, as Jesus is preaching, the disciples are out at the edge of the crowd checking voter IDs. Or, hey, what's the worst sin you've ever done? Oh, sorry, you gotta go over here. Like there's no one checking. Everyone can come. And that's what we do here. Whether sinner or whether saint, whether spiritual nomad journeying or whether religious expert, all can come hear the truth of Jesus. Whether you're in a place far from God or whether you're in a place where you just think you're good with God, we all need the Son of God. And it's equal footing at the cross of Jesus. We all need Jesus. We all need his grace. No sin is too great and no wandering too far for the love of God. And therefore, we're a church who welcomes all to come and find a new life and find a new way of living and being forgiven and loved. Do we have to agree? Here's the important thing. Do we have to agree with everything? Do we have to agree with every lifestyle and every circumstance and every behavior? Do we have to agree with everybody's decision? Absolutely not. The culture wants to tell you that to love someone, you have to endorse all their actions or it's not love. And that's just false. Don't buy that lie. Are you a parent? You know this. You love your kid, don't you? Do you endorse every decision they make? Well, if you really love me, you'd let me eat candy all the time. I love you enough to not let you do that. We all have that uncle in the family that like, oh, I love him, but wow, I don't agree with his choices, right? You see, we can love and not endorse. And that is so powerfully true. It has to be true. Love does not require an endorsement. God loves us so much, he calls us however we are to come to him, but he loves us too much to leave us there. But it's not our job to get in the way. We call them to Jesus. So we do not have to approve of someone's behavior to love them to Jesus. Continue. Jesus asked, which of these three would you say was a neighbor to the man who attacked by the bandits? And the man replied, and you can almost hear the gritted teeth, the one who showed him mercy. Like do you see? He can't even say the name. The man had a name in the story, the Samaritan. He can't even say it. The one who showed him mercy. And then Jesus finishes with this sentence that had to just be a dagger. Yes, now you go and do the same. Go and live like the Samaritan. Oh, he told a holy man, a religious expert that. Talk about an explosive story. What happened here was shocking to the religious people. It must have been shocking to those listening in, the people who were just checking out the Jesus thing and like, what? Are you kidding me? Seeing someone come to and here's the point. When you love people and you see the reality of it, it's beautiful. When we see the reality of what it means to love God and love people, when we understand this, and let me just be honest, some of us out here will go, you know what? I have no problem loving God, but it's loving people that I struggle with. But others of you might say, listen, I get the whole love people thing. It's the loving God I actually struggle with. And Jesus shows us the reality that is only through the miracle of surrender to him, where both are present, that we fully step into the purpose of true love. That we are loved and forgiven by Jesus. And through him, we love ourselves in a whole new way, forgiving our own past, forgiving ourselves, and then loving with a new resource. And when we see that, it's powerful. Church, if we can be that, it's powerful. Church, if we can do this in our homes, families change. If we can do this in our neighborhoods, cul-de-sacs change, communities change, regions change. When you see this in action, it is amazing. And I want to show you a video. It's a video of a guy named Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey is a daytime talk TV show guy. He's a comedian. He's worth $200 million, but he wasn't always. And here on one of his birthday celebrations on the show, the staff had a surprise for him, a surprise interview as they had some people show up and talk to him. Let's watch.
This one is a surprise. Okay, I said no surprises. Sorry? That's what you're saying to me, Alex? Sorry? Okay, this is a surprise calling in via satellite from Orlando. Let's see who it is.
Hi, Steve. This is Rich List from Orlando, Florida, and I called you to wish you a happy birthday and ask you one question. Do you still love me, baby? I'm waiting for my answer, buddy.
Hey, man. I love you, man.
I love you too, man. Yeah. You want to say hi to your girlfriend?
Who, Becky there?
Yeah?
Hey, man.
Say hi.
Hey, Becky.
Hi, Steve.
Jesus.
We love you, buddy.
These people.
And we wish you the best happy birthday.
I was 26 years old, man. I was struggling. I didn't have nothing. And these people owned the furniture store in Cleveland. And they took me in and gave me my first contract with my little carpet cleaning company. When I became a comedian at 27, I didn't have money to travel. They gave me an account at their travel agency. And man, I ran up a bill like $11,000 just trying to travel and make it. Them people right there. You know, man, they helped me out. Hey, man, I got money now, Rich.
You got money?
Matter of fact, hey, Rich, I'm gonna send a plane to pick up you and Becky. I'm gonna fly y'all to Chicago for the show. I've been looking for you for years, man.
You found me, baby. All right.
Have a great birthday, Steve.
Have a great birthday.
Thank you. I want to say, hey, man,
What?
you bailed me, man. I never forgot it. Thank you, man.
Okay. We love you.
We love you, Steve.
I love y'all too, man. All right, I didn't need you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
See, it's beautiful. Did you hear he said, I never forgot it? You bailed me. I was on the side of the road and you found me. Gratitude is the appropriate response. It starts with gratitude. I just want to tell you a story about my own self. You see, there was a time where I wasn't a pastor. I was lost. I was spiritually broken. I was on my journey through life and I'd traveled and I'd tried it all, but nothing gave me the solid ground that I hoped for. And then on my path of life, you know, there's always like childhood dysfunction and things you do and things that are done to you. There's tragedy, and there's my own sin, and those things ambushed me on the road of life. They ambushed me, and they mercilessly attacked me, and they beat me and robbed me of my innocence, and they left me in the ditch. You see, in my life, there was a time I was a beaten person on the side of the road. We were all that person. And our past, and our dysfunction, and our decisions, and our sin beaten us and left us for dead. And some of us, we hoped that religion would save us. But when religion arrived, where I was beaten and broken, religion didn't give me the hand that I hoped. In fact, it stood across the road and it scolded me for having the nerve to be lost and broken. It wouldn't come come near to me. It told me to clean up my act. It gave me some things to do. Hey, do these things, crawl to me, crawl over here to me, show me you really mean it, and then maybe I'll help you out of here. And as I reached out, religion walked away, crossed the path, and left me more hopeless than I have before. And maybe you've been there. Maybe you've tried the religious thing, hoping it would solve and settle some things in your past. And it never did it? It never did. You crawled, you tried, you worked. In fact, some of us then, we even tried to do what all the religious things said. We followed the book, the thou shalt nots. We don't know all the stuff, but we knew there's like a sin management kind of religion where I'm managing my sin and I'm trying to do enough good to balance out the bad. And I'm trying to earn my salvation. I'm trying to earn God's favor. But in my broken condition there on the side of the road in my journey, in my life, those rules, those efforts had no cure for me. I was still broken and left there, exhausted from all my trying and striving. I was lost in my sin and wandering. My past mistakes, my past haunted me and owned me. My present reality left me anxious and depressed. Spiritually, I was beaten and dead. I could not rescue myself on this journey of life. And who would be my neighbor? Who would come and love me when I was unlovable? And then someone approached. Someone from the outside. Someone who was the last person I expected. He came close, and although I was shocked, he offered me help. And he gave me a meal of bread and wine. And he began to wash my wounds and my past and my broken heart. And in our time together, he healed my soul in a way that the religion and the striving had never done. He washed me. He didn't just save me and then leave me. He carried me. He carried me to a warm place and introduced me to a gathering of people who were also found, who were also healing. And he trusted me to their care as well, a place where I could grow strong, not to judge me. And this person who saved me and rescued me, he opened his resources to me and gave me gifts for my entire life, like peace, and he gave me purpose. He gave me divine resources for real life. And then with love, he held my face and he said, I'll be back someday. I'll be back. But until then, as you heal and grow, I don't want you to forget what I've done. And I want you to go out and do what I've done for you for others. Go into all the world and tell them what you've experienced. Go into all the world and tell them what you've heard. Go to all people and show them through your actions and your love and words what you've received. Don't bury this. Don't just keep it on one little part of your life. Pass it on. And he said, what I've done for you, do for others. You see, Jesus was my good Samaritan. He saved me in my life. Jesus is our good Samaritan. He perfectly fulfills this. And the beauty of the parable is that once we've been so low and received such grace, and we've received such love, when you get back on the path of life, you don't or you shouldn't live the same way you did before. You should walk differently. When we see someone in the ditch, we don't go away from them because we remember, I was there. When we see somebody who life or decisions or their own sin or their own deception or their own lifestyle has beaten them down, we don't avoid them and go, oh, they got what's coming. We go, I remember when I was rescued. Someone came for me because that was me. And Jesus is our good Samaritan. He found us when our life and our sin and all other pursuits like religion had left us for dead. And he sacrificially gave of his own life and his own self and for our healing and our freedom. He held us, he saved us, he healed us, but he doesn't leave it there. He doesn't stop there because he asks for us who've been rescued to go and live like that and rescue others. He left and he left it in our hands. And the very people he entrusted to live this life often are the ones who are the religious elite with arms crossed, judging people, unwilling to cross the road for broken sons and daughters. But if we have been rescued, church, you live with them, you work with them. If we would embody the message of Jesus, things change. If we embody who he is and love God and love people, and we reveal him to our community, how many would come to know him as Savior? How many would we find on the road and help them to the community of salvation? What would it look like? What would it look like in your life? And so I'm going to ask us today to put down the things that we put between us and those people, those who are broken. Because we look an awful lot like Jesus described, those religious people who wouldn't even go near. That's not who we are as a church. Jesus is worthy of it all. He is the one who saved us in such a powerful way. He is worthy of it all. Church, he's worthy of our life because of what he's done for us. He is worth the awkward conversations and the sacrificial love and giving. He's worthy because of what he's done for us. And so as we sing this song, I want to invite you to maybe go take communion and hold in your hand the symbol of his sacrificial love that found you. And if you have never taken communion here, you don't know what to do, grab one of the communion guides that goes with it and sit and read through that and pray and honor Jesus for saving you and finding you. And as we sing, he is worthy of it all, which is straight from Revelation. It's a book about how he is worthy of it all above all things. We can sing this because of what he's done in our life. Orchard, let's be that church and those people and respond in gratitude and